Hi everybody, and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. This post is from the subreddit Relationships, and it's by user Patience Gone. Me, 35 female, with my coworker, 55 female, 6 months. Blames all of her problems on me. Fellow teachers, help! Anyone, help! I don't know if I'm gonna survive the rest of the year. I've been teaching middle school subject for 8 years. I have an undergraduate degree in my content area along with a master's in education in advanced teaching and administrative leadership. I say this because I have actually done some work to better myself as a teacher and refine instructional strategies. This doesn't make me automatically better than anyone else, but I do have the benefit of some experience and further education. My principal, who is an entirely separate story, has a crony she's known for years and has continually hired her as a sub. We'll call her Leona. This year, Leona was hired as a long-term sub in a vacant position. Our district has some shortage issues, and was given permission by her college to do her student teaching as a long-term sub under my supervision. I was voluntold to do this. Leona teaches the same grade level and subject, and they put her next door to me. A small supply room is between our rooms, so I can't really lock her out of my room in any fashion. The beginning of the year was okay. She was completely overwhelmed because she has never taught this subject before and at a loss with all of the content. We are required at my site to give common grade level assessments for each unit and for the semester finals. Within that, we are free to teach the standards as we see fit. So I made her a 3-ring binder. I divided the sections according to the unit, with the test up front, and then the worksheets and activities in the order I do them in my class. At first, things were okay. I was meeting with Leona and her professor regularly and evaluating things like her classroom management, lesson design, etc. She was really receptive to suggestions, but would cry when I'd suggest she add an element to her lesson plans or try a different approach when I saw that the students weren't responding to something specific. She struggled through a week of teaching her students about the metric system because she doesn't understand it herself. That week, I saw her in my room every morning in a blind panic. I continually discussed her issues with the content with her supervisor, with my admin, and with her. Her student teaching ended about 3 months ago, and it has been rapidly downhill from there. She has gone from being polite to demanding. One example is that I teach an elective class during the time she has her prep period. She will interrupt my class with a question, and I've told her a few times that we're in the middle of an activity and that she needs to come back after class. She'll respond with, "It'll just be a minute," or "This is just X class, I need a minute of your time." I've had to be very firm with her, in front of my students too, to get her to leave so I can continue teaching. A month before our semester 1 final, I gave a copy of said final to Leona and the other teacher in our grade level. Everyone is required to submit their own copies to the admin for approval, even though it is also required that it be a common assessment. After the finals were approved, Leona came to me and said she felt that the exam was too hard for some of her students. She wanted to revise it for some of her lower kids. I told her no, that we were required to give the same exam. She said, "You wrote this exam for your kids, the smart ones, and this is so unfair." I am teaching all honors sections this year, simply because of my experience with the content. The other teacher has been teaching for a little over a year at this point. The truth is that the test has to be used for all levels, as special ed, gen ed, and honors, so it's written with that in mind. I explained this to Leona and further explained to her that we had used the same test last year, during which time I had special ed and gen ed students, and they managed the test just fine. Leona did not like this answer and went to whine about it to our supervising admin. This resulted in a meeting with Leona, myself, our admin, and the principal. Luckily, the principal backed me completely and told Leona that she had a month to raise any objections to the test, and that she would do well to defer to teachers with more experience in the future. Leona was pissed and cried at this meeting. I left because I have zero patience for her at this point. Leona also came to me during finals week asking if she could curve the test. I told her I wasn't going to give an answer on that and she would need to speak to an admin. Leona received the same binder for semester 2. Tests, activities, etc. She has come to me several times in the last quarter to ask for advice on getting her kids to grasp certain concepts. Whenever I give her a suggestion, she responds, "But you have all the smart kids," or "Your kids are the best ones, you have all the good kids, of course it works for you." I have tried repeatedly to explain to her that I have taught all levels, but she dismisses me after asking me for advice because she thinks I have it easy. And for the record, our district is extremely focused on growth statistics in students, and it's very hard to get honor students to show significant growth because they're already at or near the top. My patience finally snapped at a recent grade level meeting. I had given my colleagues a copy of the semester 2 final well ahead of time and asked for any input by April. Leona started in on how the test was too hard, too long, and the verbiage was too confusing for her kids. I told her that I'd be happy to hear her suggestions or rewording the questions, which she said she didn't know how to rewrite. She then got into an argument with our admin, who was sitting in, about what common assessments actually mean. I asked Leona if she'd like to try jointly hosting peer study sessions after school, and she came out with it again. "You have all the smart kids, you don't know how hard it is in my room." This was it for me. I said, "Leona, you need to stop saying that. I work just as hard as you do at instruction, and my students being advanced doesn't make it any easier on me. What you're saying is offensive, and I'm tired of it. You need to stop saying that in response to every suggestion." She then accused me of attacking her, and the rest of the meeting proceeded awkwardly. I found out today that she yelled at our custodian, who is seriously the nicest guy and such a hard worker. He asked her to clear some things off of her counters so he could clean better, and she told him that she doesn't have anywhere to put stuff. Not true, we have a ton of space, she's just disorganized and messy. He innocently told her that she could ask me for some organizational tips because my room is super organized. She screamed at him that I have all the good kids, so of course my room looks better. I just don't know how to get through the rest of the year dealing with her crap. I don't know if she's going to be licensed by the state, but if she is, my boss will almost certainly hire her. I also need to figure out a way to tell my boss that this is a deal breaker for me. I will not work with her for another year. This has put me on edge all year. Every time I hear the door from her side of the supply room open, I cringe and shudder. Any suggestions are welcome, but I feel like this was really ranty. Sorry. Wow, OP, she does not sound like a nice coworker. I think what says it all to me was the fact that she was whining about some questions but didn't have any input on how to actually make them better. Personally, and back when I had an office job, I respected my coworkers a lot more when they would raise a flag for a problem and at the same time offer some sort of solution or a way they would go about solving the problem. I did not like people that would just say, "Oh, there's a problem here," and that was it because it wasn't in their scope to try to solve it. All of that to say, I don't think I like Leona very much. OP, if you don't like working with her, then go to your principal. Maybe she's your crony, but I'm assuming your principal is also some sort of a professional that could see that Leona just doesn't fit. And in the worst case scenario that she gets her degree and she is hired at your school, maybe think about relocating. And I really don't like that bit of advice because I'm not one to run away from a problem, but in this case, it's a bit difficult, right? And what do you guys think about this situation, or what would you do if you were in OP's shoes? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see what they said. R. Taisoa says, "Not only would I talk to her boss, I'd talk to her professor or teacher, saying that she needs more instruction or to start somewhere else outside of a long-term sub position because honestly, her treatment of you was horrible. Screaming and blaming you and others for her inability to take responsibility for herself is appalling." Pantera123 says, "According to my local teachers union, if we have any concerns, we have to try to address them with the teacher before we can bring anyone else in. I am assuming you have done this already. Try talking to your principal about your serious concerns about Leona. If she doesn't listen to you, it may be time to contact your local teachers union." BB Buckley says, "You need her boss to handle her. Start filing formal complaints based on violations of your employee handbook. You can start with her yelling at the custodian." Additional information from OP's comments. Leona even has a co-teacher for 2 of her classes to help with any accommodations needed. She still claims it's too hard and she doesn't understand that special ed means access to the general curriculum. She has used the phrase dumbing it down several times, which is so what the F? Are we in the 90s? Please note that the students take a test at the beginning of the year to provide a baseline data point, and they were modified and accommodated as per their individual education plans. Now, I am able to transfer to another school, but it bums me out. I've been here 8 years and put up with the same garbage other teachers do that is out of our control, but I know I cannot do another year with Leona. Also, I'm tenured, we call it post-probationary here, and I'd basically have to punch a kid or sleep with a kid at this point to get fired. Unfortunately, we are expected to work in professional learning community groups with our grade level, meetings twice a month, so I can't get out of working with her if she's in my department. In addition, our curriculum is completely changing next year. It's going to be a struggle for me. I can't carry her at the same time, but the expectation is that I'll give her any and all materials I create or access to my lesson plans or whatever. I don't mind collaboration, but not when it's completely one-sided. Alright, well, the community was pretty firm on saying that she needs to handle this with the boss or administrator. And OP gave us a little bit more context about Leona. So let's move on with the update to see how this story ends. I actually haven't had to sit in a PLC, specific department and grade level, meeting with Leona since I posted because of spring break and some other scheduling issues. In that time, a few things have happened. First, I sat down with my principal and told her, I think professionally, that I couldn't see myself working with Leona next year. I know our supervisor must have told her what happened at the meeting. I told our principal that Leona has redeeming qualities as a teacher which could be nurtured, but that her soft skills are completely lacking, which makes it difficult to mentor her in any way. My principal didn't make any promises but thanked me for being upfront with her and said she understood where I was coming from. Second, the last hire date of the year passed. While the state issued Leona her K-8 license, she did not pass her Praxis 2 content test yet, which means she could not be hired into the position she's long-term subbing in. So, she's still just a sub. Third, our district raised the maximum class size, which means our school lost some teaching positions for the upcoming school year. One of the positions eliminated is the sub job Leona is currently in. So now, there is no job for her in our department next year. At all. The last part has caused some issues for Leona, which only served to reinforce her inability to behave in the workplace. We had to sit down as a department and decided who was teaching what courses next year, and of course, Leona was not part of the schedule. She got really mad and yelled at our department chair about being cut out. I used a Redditor's suggestion and sang songs in my head while she whined. Our department chair tried to explain to her that this isn't our decision. Rather, if the district tells our principal to cut X positions, it's up to the principal. This has resulted in Leona snarling at everyone all day, as in, someone will say, "Good morning," in the hallway and she'll just glare and or grunt. I know she is disappointed, but this is really over the top. We had a department meeting last weekend and she spent the entire meeting playing games on her phone and even flat out ignored a coworker who asked her for input on something happening this year. Many people have tried to explain to her that this is the normal process for our district. It's not personal, and as someone who is not even in a licensed staff position, she is going to be a low man. Her cooperating teacher finally got fed up and told her to just get some people skills. And now, the new issue. Today I was at work finishing up some stuff and I went into her room to look into her cabinet. We have some shared glassware inventory that is stored in her room. I noticed some of my personal things in her room that she definitely never asked to borrow and which I never gave her permission to take. I took them back and locked the door between our rooms from my side so she can't get in when I'm not there, period. I'm going to talk to my direct supervisor about it tomorrow. We have a meeting anyway. But I'll just have to be on guard for the next 8 weeks. Then, hopefully, Leona will be gone for good. Well, OP, I'm gonna count this as a positive update in the sense that you won't have to deal with Leona anymore. You did what you needed to do, you raised the flag, but apparently things took care of itself. So, all the best to you, OP, in the future, and take care. Now, let's move on to the next post. This post is from the subreddit Malicious Compliance, and it's by user MyPostingName13. Oh, you've made me hourly instead of salary because you're afraid I'll stop selling after I hit my commission cap? Should have just let me stay home. Years ago, I was an inside sales rep for a simultaneously large and tiny company in a niche market. The quotes are because it was at least equally outside sales. I just didn't go outside except to smoke. I've quit since. They had about 50 branches across the country in various sizes. The smallest was literally one guy who processed local orders and used hotshots for delivery. The largest had about 50 employees. I made 6 for my branch. I was literally the first salesman with a background in anything resembling sales that my branch manager had ever hired. They'd always hired the least socially awkward industry professionals they could prior to me, and they'd had their corporate social responsibility doing the selling for over a year until I came on, so expectations were high. When they hired me, we had somewhat heated negotiations over the comp plan. It was a $42,000 base salary plus commissions with a $56,000 on-target earnings and a $65,000 cap. I asked what was I meant to do after I hit the cap, to which they replied, "Continue to do your job," as if I wasn't going to have a problem with generating new business for free. I said that I was going to need a bonus structure beyond the cap if they wanted me to do any more hunting after that point. I made it clear that I'd service my accounts when they called, but I wanted to be clear that they were going to be disappointed if they expected me to make outbound calls looking for new business after I'd maxed my comp plan, and that I'd definitely enjoy the extra time at home with my family over the holidays. They said they understood, and we went through the onboarding. I worked almost exactly 40 hours for almost 2 months, early October, early December, before I had jury duty and missed a day. My check was about $150 light compared to what it had been, so I complained to payroll. Benefits kicked in at 90 days. That's when I found out I was making $21 an hour and was not, in fact, pulling a salary. Presumably, this was to force me into the office as we didn't have remote access to the local network that logged our hours, just the ordering and inventory software. I didn't even get a prorated Christmas bonus because that counts as benefits and you have to work 90 days to receive those. Cue malicious compliance. I discovered that if I left the house 30 minutes earlier, my 80-minute commute would take less than 25. So instead of showing up around 8:30 and chilling in my car for a bit so I was working at 9, I was there at 7 with the warehouse guys sending emails. I started working through lunch as I ate at my desk as opposed to burning an hour off campus or in the break room. I didn't even realize I was losing an hour a day to lunch. I also discovered that if I stayed till 6:30, I'd get home by 7 as opposed to leaving a little after 5 and getting home around 6:30. So I spent an extra 5 hours a week away from home and worked an extra 22 compared to the 35 I was getting paid for before I figured it out. With the overtime, I was clocking north of $2,000 more than intended every month, and oddly enough, no one even noticed until the internal auditor verified W-2s and noticed that I made significantly more than the branch manager. I didn't hit my commission cap until late November, so I spent the rest of the year training with the tech and/or warehouse guy. Both stoners. They tried to put me on the same salaried comp plan I'd originally agreed to, but it was enough of a pay cut to qualify for constructive dismissal, so I got to quit and still collected unemployment for a month before I found another gig. Well, OP, you were an hourly employee without you knowing it, and then you made them pay for it. Good for you. Thanks for sharing. And it's that time that we've reached the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed today's stories. I really did enjoy reading them to you. So if you did, then don't be shy and go ahead and give the video a like. And don't forget to subscribe or even share this video with people that you might think will enjoy my storytelling. Also, if you have the time, go down to the video description and check out all the links I have for you, from our Discord community to my channel merch. And finally, I'd like to say thank you for watching. It really means a lot to me that you enjoy my videos. And having said all that, I'll see you guys in the next video.